25 and had hoped that music would become her life. She wanted a career in music, but failed to get into the Royal Academy of Music. What a beautiful portrait. This picture was taken in 1958, when Katherine was 25. Little did she know at the time that her life was about to change forever by the ambitions of her mother and a charming prince. Here we can clearly see her transition from shy, mousy schoolgirl to a glamorous city sophisticate. By now she was courting Prince Edward, the Duke of Kent, a cousin of Queen Elizabeth. It's reported that her mother Joyce persuaded her to end previous courtships so that she was free to marry the Duke. Joyce apparently introduced the couple when she invited Prince Edward, who was stationed with the army nearby, for lunch. Prince Edward was said to be smitten with her and would often visit Hovingham Hall, using the back entrance to avoid the press. While Catherine Worsley's parents gave their blessing, her path to becoming a Duchess was far from smooth. Standing in her way was the formidable Princess Marina, the Duke of Kent's mother. Now look at this. We see Princess Marina here on the left, arm in arm with her son, the Duke of Kent, and Catherine on his other arm, the two women in his life. Now for Princess Marina, widowed since 1942 when her husband, the Duke of Kent, was killed in a plane crash, she was determined that her son would marry into royalty. So the prospect of him marrying Katherine, who, although she was the daughter of a prominent Yorkshire aristocrat, he was just a baronet, and for Princess Marina, she was very much a commoner. Princess Marina appeared to be dead set against the match, refusing to let Edward propose. Worried that Katherine, a commoner, couldn't handle the pressures of royal duty, it was a concern that Katherine herself reportedly shared. Marina demanded a year-long separation to test their resolve, while Edward served in Germany. But her harsh tactics only served to strengthen their bond. With no other option, Princess Marina was finally forced to give her consent. With the Queen's approval also secured, as required under the Royal Marriages Act for royals under the age of 25, Edward finally proposed on New Year's Day 1961. Media speculation around the courtship was frenzied and comparable to the later romances of Charles and Diana and William and Kate. And finally, in March 1961, the engagement was officially announced, just a day before this photograph was taken. Catherine's wedding would be a landmark event, the first time in over 100 years that a woman without a title had married into the firm. But this fairy tale beginning masked the trials and tribulations to come. I thought this quote from Lord Bridges about Katherine was very interesting. He said, "I suspect that she undertook the marriage partly out of a sense of duty. In other words, it wasn't the romantic, overwhelming thing that most people have." Just months after their engagement, Catherine Worsley and Prince Edward tied the knot in a spectacular ceremony at York Minster, a venue not used for a royal wedding in more than 600 years. The location was a nod to Catherine's proud Yorkshire roots. It was a grand occasion, 2,000 guests invited, including 3 queens. She wore the Kent diamond and pearl fringed tiara and a dress designed by John Kavanagh. Princess Anne was the chief bridesmaid, and the television cameras filmed the ceremony. Catherine had never been a fan of public appearances, but this was watched by 12 million people. The Times reported that she looked pale and exhausted as she walked down the aisle. And look, we can see how pale she was here. It was later reported that Catherine was found crying in the bathroom, fearful that she had made a mistake in marrying the Duke. Taking on Princess Marina's title as the Duchess of Kent, Catherine was immediately thrown into royal duties at their new home, Coppins, just 15 miles from West London. Her quiet life at Hovingham Hall was now a distant memory. Just a year after the wedding, this picture-perfect family portrait was taken, shortly after the Duchess gave birth to their first child, George Philip Nicholas, in June 1962. Contemporary reports confirm that the Duke was by his wife's side for the birth, a picture of marital bliss. But little did they know that their son George, the Earl of St Andrews, would inherit his mother's unease with royal life. Catherine was almost 30 when she gave birth to her first child, which was considered old for a first-time mother of her generation. George was technically a commoner, following a decree by George V that only children of the sovereign, or children of any sons of the sovereign, should henceforth be a prince or princess or take an HRH title. This photograph of the Duke and Duchess of Kent at Uganda's independence celebrations reveals a fascinating glimpse into the early days of their royal life. Just months after the birth of their son George, they were already undertaking significant overseas engagements on behalf of the Queen, who was also raising a young family. While she appears relaxed and regal, waving to the enthusiastic crowds, the reality of leaving her 4-month-old baby must have been incredibly difficult. It's clear from these images that despite her earlier anxieties about royal life, Katherine embraced some of the perks that came with it: the exotic travel, the adoring crowds, and the chance to play a significant role on the world stage. After the whirlwind of royal duties and the pressures of public life, the Duke and Duchess of Kent found an unexpected sanctuary in Hong Kong. Just a month after their demanding tour, they relocated to a small 3-bedroom apartment, a far cry from the opulent estates of home. This period, however, became a time of genuine happiness for the couple, a chance for Katherine to shed the constraints of royal life and embrace a more relaxed existence. Noel Coward, a close friend, observed in his diary that they were merry as grigs and having a lovely time, untrammelled by royal pomposity. This experience fostered a lifelong love for Hong Kong, its culture and its food in Katherine. It's a striking image, the Duchess finding solace in a simple life, decades before Prince Charles would stand in the driving rain to witness the end of British rule in the former colony. The Duke and Duchess of Kent's return to Europe in 1964 marked a turning point in their marriage. The Duke's posting to Germany had meant a significant change for the Duchess, who found herself back at Coppins, their family home in the pretty Buckinghamshire village of Iver. This charming photo shows her with their newborn daughter, Lady Helen. It was reported that the Duke arrived just in time for the birth, which took place in the same room as their sons. Lady Helen would later make history by becoming the first royal to use the family surname, Windsor. But for the Duchess, this was the beginning of a new reality, adapting to life as an army wife, which would mean enduring long separations from her husband. This compelling image of the Duchess in 1967, resplendent in her academic robes as Chancellor of Leeds University, hints at a hidden side to her royal life. Following their return to the UK 2 years previously, the Duchess embarked on a path of dedicated service to education, while simultaneously fulfilling her increasing royal obligations. The Kents travelled the world representing the Queen, attending momentous occasions such as the independence of British Guiana and Barbados, and the coronation of the King of Tonga. But away from the pomp and ceremony, the Duchess led a remarkably different existence. In the quiet village of Iver, she was simply Katherine, a valued member of the Women's Institute and a regular at the local shops. This almost schizophrenic existence, torn between two vastly different worlds, reveals the inner conflict that would come to define her. In 1968, Princess Marina died following a brain tumour. It was decided that Katherine would take on 8 of her patronages, leaving her once sparsely filled diary absolutely packed. It was around this time that the Kent marriage was becoming semi-detached, due to the couple's diverging interests. The most difficult thing for Katherine at this stage was juggling her new work schedule and the demands of being a mother of 2. Her role at the University of Leeds was the first that had nothing to do directly with the royal family or being an army wife. This seemingly simple photograph would set a royal precedent for decades to come. It's 1970 and the Duchess of Kent is leaving King's Cross Hospital with her newborn son, Lord Nicholas Windsor. In a departure from royal tradition, she chose to give birth in a hospital, a decision made in consideration of her age. The scene outside the hospital was a media circus, crowds of well-wishers, photographers and TV crews eager to capture the first glimpse of the new royal baby. This image would become the blueprint for future royal births. In the years since, there have been similar moments for Princess Anne, Princess Diana, Sarah, the Duchess of York, and most recently Katherine, Princess of Wales. But look at the difference here. In their cases, we've always seen the father of the baby with her, but my goodness, Katherine looks lonely, on her own there with the newly born Lord Nicholas. Behind the smiles and the public celebration, a stark reality emerges. The Duke was stationed in Cyprus, leaving the Duchess to face this significant moment alone. This family portrait, while appearing happy on the surface, foreshadows a period of deep personal suffering for the Duchess of Kent. It's 1973, and the Duke and Duchess have sold the family home Coppins to supplement Edward's army income and are now living in a grace and favour home at St James's Palace. And it's around this time that the Duchess longed to extend their family, but the years that followed this would be marked with sadness. Along with losing both of her parents, the dream of having another child would end in tragedy. In 1975, the Times carried a small article detailing that the Duchess of Kent was suffering with German measles. It would be many years before it emerged that she was also pregnant at the time. The condition presented a grave danger to the unborn child, leading a top royal physician to recommend a termination. For the Duchess, who was deeply religious, this must have been an agonising dilemma. Lord David Coggan, then Archbishop of Canterbury and a close confidant of the Duchess, later said that the decision troubled her throughout her life. Just 2 years after her previous loss, tragedy struck the Duchess of Kent once more. This photograph, taken at the 1977 FA Cup final, just weeks before the announcement of her pregnancy, shows her beaming with happiness, a stark contrast to the heartbreak that was to come. Despite experiencing some health issues, the Duchess bravely continued with her royal engagements until October, when it was announced that she was suffering from complications with his 14-year-old grandson. According to her biographer Mary Riddle, the Duchess was so distraught by the loss of her son that she would chat about him as if he had lived. The tragedies of these years, coupled with the Duchess's deepening depression, placed an immense strain on the Kents' marriage. Raised in the emotionally restrained world of royalty, the Duke's upbringing stood in stark contrast to the Duchess's more tactile and sensitive nature. Rumours swirled at the time that the couple were even considering divorce, a truly shocking prospect for the royal family. But it's been alleged that the Duke made a solemn promise to the Queen there would be no separation. Ever mindful of royal protocol and desperate to avoid any action that would displease the monarch, the Duchess remained steadfast in her commitment to upholding the image of a united front. Yet despite this public facade, the couple began to lead increasingly separate lives in the years that followed. This poignant photo, taken in 1979 at the memorial service for Lord Mountbatten, captures a moment of shared grief despite the growing chasm in their relationship. It was these shared struggles with heartbreak and royal life that forged a deep and lasting friendship between the Duchess of Kent and Princess Diana, who would later face similar challenges in her own marriage. This candid photo, taken on the Buckingham Palace balcony during Trooping the Colour in 1990, shows the two women relaxed and at ease, sharing a private joke. The Duchess, having navigated the treacherous waters of royal duty and a complex marriage, became a trusted confidant and advisor to Diana during critical moments in her life. Their shared experiences of grief, depression, and the often isolating reality of royal life created a unique and powerful bond that endured until Diana's tragic death in 1997. Katherine would later say that she understood Diana very well for obvious reasons, implying that she had first-hand experience of some of the more awful aspects of the princess's life. Now this image captures the Duchess of Kent in a setting that the nation grew accustomed to seeing her, Wimbledon. For 30 years she accompanied her husband, the Duke of Kent, who was president of the All England Club, to the prestigious tournament. She became a beloved figure, known for presenting prizes and offering genuine compassion to the runners-up. But this public image of grace and composure masked a growing struggle with her health. This photo, taken alongside Lady Diana in 1981, reveals a hidden detail. The Duchess is wearing a surgical collar beneath her clothing to support a displaced disc. It was a sign of things to come. In 1982, she was hospitalised due to severe abdominal pain, and the following year she was forced to cancel public engagements for surgery to remove an ovarian cyst. Her health continued to deteriorate in the ensuing decades, with diagnoses of Epstein-Barr virus, ME, and finally celiac disease. Yet these debilitating conditions remained largely secret, and the Duchess bravely maintained a packed schedule of public appearances, cheerfully presenting prizes at Wimbledon and fulfilling her royal duties with unwavering dedication. Now this famous image of the Duchess of Kent comforting a tearful Jana Novotná at the 1993 Wimbledon final is perhaps her most well-known moment and a powerful demonstration of why she was so different from other royals. As she presented Novotna with the runner-up trophy on centre court, the Duchess offered words of comfort, telling her, "I know you will win it one day, don't worry." This display of tactile compassion was still a rare sight from a member of the royal family at the time. "That's what you do when people are crying," the Duchess later explained to the BBC. "We are quite normal people. We do hug people who cry. It is a natural reaction." But this heartwarming gesture was not the Duchess's only act of kindness at Wimbledon. In a remarkable secret act of compassion, she helped reunite tennis legend Martina Navratilova with her mother in 1979, 4 years after Martina had fled communist Czechoslovakia. After the player's defection, her family faced severe repercussions from the Czech authorities, losing their jobs and being barred from travelling to see her. The Duchess, deeply moved by Martina's victory at Wimbledon in 1978, without her family present, intervened, ensuring that Martina's mother could witness her daughter play on centre court the following year. 1993 was a year of significant change for the Duchess of Kent, and not just because of her now famous Wimbledon moment. A chance encounter with a nervous primary school teacher from Hull would lead her down a remarkable and unexpected path. Hearing the teacher's anxieties about teaching music, the Duchess felt compelled to help, volunteering to teach the children to sing, and so began a 13-year secret. Once a week, she would discreetly travel to Hull to teach music, leading a double life far removed from the pomp and circumstance of royalty. This photograph, taken from a 2004 documentary more than a decade later, offers a rare glimpse into this hidden world. The Duchess, using the alias Mrs. Kent, managed to keep her royal identity a secret from most of her pupils, thanks to the discretion of school staff. It's a truly extraordinary tale of a royal embracing a completely different life, hidden from the public eye. "I was just known as Mrs. Kent," she told an interviewer in 2014. "Only the head knew who I was. The parents didn't know, and the pupils didn't know. No one ever noticed. There was no publicity about it at all. It just seemed to work." Katherine took up a voluntary position, travelling once a week to Wansbeck Primary School on the Long Hill Council Estate in Hull. In 1994, she pushed the boundaries of royal protocol once again by converting to Catholicism. This dramatic decision made her the first member of the royal family to abandon Protestantism since James II's deathbed conversion in 1685. Despite being the head of the Church of England, the Queen gave her blessing to the Duchess's deeply personal choice. It is thought that the profound personal tragedies that she had experienced played a significant role in her embrace of the Catholic faith. Her youngest son, Lord Nicholas, her grandson, Lord Downpatrick, and her granddaughter, Lady Marina, have all followed in her footsteps, also converting to Roman Catholicism. Alongside her royal duties and secret teaching career, the Duchess of Kent dedicated an extraordinary amount of time to charitable causes, serving as patron, president or representative of more than 100 organisations. This powerful image captures her being greeted in a slum area of Varanasi, northern India, during the 50th anniversary celebrations of UNICEF, a charity she first became involved with in the early 1970s, leading to extensive global travel. This striking photograph shows her warmly greeted in a slum in Varanasi. This image perfectly captures the Duchess's deeply compassionate nature. She was particularly drawn to charities focused on children, music and the elderly. It was in this arena that the true Katherine shone through. Despite her royal status, she remained remarkably down to earth, pioneering a compassionate and hands-on approach to charity work that would later be emulated by Princess Diana. I mean, look, this photograph, taken almost 30 years ago, but, even now would be remarkable. It would be on the front pages of all the newspapers. Look, a member of the royal family having their face taken in both hands by a member of the public. It really does, linger long in the memory. This well-known photograph of the Duchess of Kent presenting the Venus Rosewater dish to Venus Williams in 2001 marks a poignant moment, her last appearance on centre court presenting prizes. It was around this time that a bitter dispute with the All England club, that her longer-standing involvement with the tournament came to an end. The Duchess was reportedly deeply upset after being refused permission to seat the 12-year-old son of a bereaved friend in the coveted royal box. A curt letter reminding her that children, other than royals, were strictly forbidden is said to have sparked her fury. In a dramatic response, the Duchess threatened to boycott the royal box altogether, and she kept her word. In the years that followed, she continued to attend Wimbledon, but she chose to sit among the ordinary spectators. In 2002, the Duchess of Kent made a momentous decision, one that stands in stark contrast to the highly publicised departures of other royals. She quietly withdrew from royal duties. At the age of 69, after more than 30 years of loyal public service, her decision was met with the full support from the rest of the royal family. The Duke of Kent, known by the royal family as Steady Eddie, is still a stickler for duty and is now the oldest working member of the royal family. But the Duchess went even further than other royals who have stepped back, making the extraordinary request to relinquish her royal title. In a rare interview, she asked the BBC to call her Katherine and explained her humble motivation. "I don't like being a public figure. I say that very humbly. It's my nature. It's the way I was born. I like doing things quietly, behind the scenes. It's the way some of us are built." My colleague Richard Kay also revealed that the Duchess shunned further trappings of royal life, including chauffeur-driven cars, the taxis, and even the bus. It's hard to imagine other royals who have stepped away from public duties doing the same. This understated exit speaks volumes about the Duchess's character. After leaving public duties and eventually teaching, the Duchess launched a music charity, Future Talent, which aims to help gifted children develop their musical prowess. The charity now works with orchestras such as the Halle in Manchester and links them with primary and secondary schools. The Duchess later admitted to having an open mind when it comes to music and has a fondness for rap, including Eminem and former NWA member Ice Cube. She told a newspaper, "If you see someone on the M40 motorway looking particularly dotty, it's me trying to rap in the car going home." Despite remaining married for more than 7 decades, the Duke and Duchess of Kent in later years had largely lived separate lives. One close friend told Richard Kay in 2002, "It's simple. He lets her do whatever she likes because it makes for fewer arguments between them." In the following years, the Duchess chose to spend most of her time at the couple's home in Oxford, while the Duke remained in London. Here we see them together during a rare outing at the Queen's Diamond Jubilee celebrations. Despite the reported emotional distance between them, Katherine appears arm in arm with her husband. The following year, in 2013, Katherine moved back into Kensington Palace after the Duke had a stroke. It's said that the couple are closer now than they have ever been. With her public duties and royal titles behind her, Katherine is rarely seen over the 2 decades following 2002. She would make fewer and fewer appearances at ceremonial events, choosing not to attend the funeral of Queen Elizabeth or the coronation of King Charles. In 2023, the Duchess made a rare public appearance with her husband on the 62nd anniversary of their wedding in early June. Katherine joined the Duke at St James's Palace, where a portrait of her was unveiled by her daughter, Lady Helen Taylor, after a concert by the Future Talent Group. The concert was organised as a celebration of the Duchess's 90th birthday in February, and her husband thoughtfully requested that it was performed on their wedding anniversary too. This heartwarming appearance is believed to be their first joint public engagement since Princess Eugenie's wedding in 2018. And in October the following year, we saw the couple appear together again outside their Kensington Palace home, when the Duke was